Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our scenario is entitled Homecoming, and it was written by Thomas McKeon, who is also our game master. This is episode 4, and Mick Swan will be giving the recap. So without further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Mick?
Thanks, Tom. I'd always loved the idea of magic. When I was a kid, I read about elves, wizards, and dragons, and talking lions, and dreamed one day of finding a magic wand or a book of spells. That's why I got into this racket. Even though it was all tricks, I still hoped in that little childish corner of my heart that there might be some real magic somewhere, some wise old wizard on some lofty peak in the Himalayas or something. I always hoped. Well, it turns out magic is real, but it's not what you think. It's dark, it's seedy, and it's downright terrifying. It's not pixies and elves, it's invisible horrors and dog-faced things. It's death and it's blood, and it taints everything it touches. I thought I could get it out of my head by going back on the road, lose myself on the circuit, drink myself stupid, and try to dull my senses amid the parties and hullabaloo. But the crash took care of all that. All I had was time to think, time to ruminate, time to see Sterling's face over and over again. It was almost a relief when that kook called with his offer of work. Some easy money and a way back to New York. I guess I should have known it was too good to be true. I should have just packed up my trunk and gone on to Chicago with the rest of the show. But when someone dangles that big apple in front of your face, you tend to bite their hand off faster than you can say Broadway. When I got off the train, they were all there. Hawk, Fowler, Tommy Anderson. They even brought a pal along, William, poor kid. Doubt he'd be looking so fresh-faced for long. We headed over to the Bellevue Hotel to meet up with our mysterious benefactor, and sure as eggs is eggs, he turned up dead in the bathroom. Blood and guts everywhere. It was enough to make a horse sick. I made straight for the balcony for a smoke and a chance to clear my head. When I came back, there was some schmuck called Finley milling about, acting like he owned the place, wanting to know who I was and starting telling us to get lost. He sent us over to another hotel on Staten Island, so in lieu of other options, we took our leave. No sooner had we reached the lobby than we ran into Thompson, that egghead from the business at the Radley House. I guess the whole gang's back together now. This bodes ill. I just know it. All the people I never wanted to see again in one place, and me just going along with it like I haven't got a care in the world. I guess that's what they call fatalism. The so-called hotel turned out to be a dive called the Richmond Motel, a real low-level kind of flop. Even the roaches had flea bites. Everyone was on edge by the time we got there. Even the boy William was starting to get infected with the paranoia. I tried to keep everyone's spirits up with a card trick, but that same air of dread persisted. The next day, we spent the next day out in New York, followed by a phone call from Finley. He sent us over to Queens, where we were introduced to his clients, two rich-looking dames with a tale to tell about their missing brother Timothy, Arthur's dreams, and a whole heap of strangeness about time, shadowy hoods, and the offer of a more than generous retainer if we would look into the matter. I don't know why they want me in on this. I'm no Seamus. These days my nerves are so shot I can barely shuffle a deck of cards, so I've resolved to just keep my head down and go along with things for as long as I can and pocket the greenbacks until this deal is over. With that in mind, I headed into the fella's study with Fowler and Tommy's pal William, while Thompson and Hawk headed upstairs with Tommy, ever the young gentleman, volunteering to help the ladies with dinner. I started going through Tucker's desk and found a checkbook with a stub for 300 clams. This Tucker was quite the spender by the looks of it. William started reading some mishigoss about dreams and Egyptian gods from an old book he found on the bookshelf. Just the look of it gave me a twinge of anxiety. He tells me it's been translated by hand and wonders if it could be the work of Timothy Tucker, until I pointed out that the handwriting didn't match the checkbook. Fowler calls out to Thompson upstairs and then, without warning, lifts a painting from the wall and reveals a hidden safe behind it. Goodness knows how he saw it there, but there it is. About this time, Thompson and Hawk arrive in response to Fowler's summons, and at his invitation, the professor examines the book. Prof reckons it's based on something pretty ancient from back in biblical times. I try to concentrate on what he's saying, but I get that feeling again. Dead bodies, missing people, ancient books. I've been here before, this ain't gonna end well, mark my words. It came as some relief when Tommy's indelicate bellow called us back into dinner. As we ate, we filled each other in on our discoveries so far. Hawk and Thompson had found some kind of medallion, a matchbook from some jazz dive, and a note hidden upstairs. The note sounded like it was from some secret sweetheart, not the kind of thing I'd show a fella's wife, but I guess that's why I'm not a private dick. The medallion, though, well, that I did recognize, well, kind of. It was a Star of David, and around it, in Hebrew, was the Psalm of Protection. I guess all those mornings spent with Rabbi Sufrin trying to hammer an appreciation of the Torah into me finally paid off. The others chit-chat over dinner, but my mind wandered again. What if I'd done what Papa wanted? What if I'd become a rabbi instead of going on the stage? How different would things be now? Surely I wouldn't have got involved with all this stuff, dead bodies and dog-faced things. Maybe Trenton would still be alive. Perhaps I'd be married with a nice homely wife and a brood of little Epsteins, instead of traveling from town to town looking for the next gig. I guess it doesn't pay to think like that. There's no sense in might have been. Better to dwell in the here and now and make sense of the best of what I've got. That's what Papa would want if he was still here. Hashem rest his soul. I catch the tail end of Finley talking some mishy-goss about goings-on at City Hall. Sounds like he may have been on the take. Hell, it's New York. Did they expect anything different? Dinner winds down and we head back to the study, where it's time to do my thing and open the safe. I was a little anxious about this because last time I tried to crack a safe in front of this crew, I choked. But this thing, this big clunky old mid-range wall safe from the turn of the century, in bad need of oiling, this was a breeze. The tumblers were so noisy I could have cracked it from the next room, not to mention the obvious wear on the dial. A little bit of dazzle and voila, popped it right open. Talk about an anti-climax. It's just a damn ledger. I was hoping for bullion, diamonds, maybe a string of pearls, but it's just his lousy accounts. Sheesh. By this time it's getting late, so we take our leave of our hosts and head back to that flea pit on Staten Island, our heads full of more questions than answers. Where is Timothy Tucker? How did his brother end up gouging out his own eyes in a swanky penthouse? Is this something sinister like that last business? Or just some plain old mob business gone wrong? Who the hell is Roy Klein?
All right, so where we left you guys off was inside the study. Bethany had just said that she was going to go upstairs. They were going to bed. It's up to you guys at this point where you want to go. It's about 11 o'clock.
Yeah. We had figured we were going to start the investigation tomorrow.
Okay. So we will then have you guys go back to the motel.
I don't want to stay at that motel. I'm going back to my own bed.
Do we
Okay.
need to get a better hotel?
Yeah, that's possible. You guys could probably just like go to a phone booth and look through the yellow pages and find yourself a better hotel. But and I imagine you guys have kind of discussed this as you're walking out the door. Can I have Hawk do a spot hidden?
Oh. Dice are over there. 92. I am cross-eyed.
Okay, you don't see anything. All right, so you guys are walking to your car. You guys get inside, and what you guys see as you sit down is that the street is very quiet this time of night. However, you can see that in the yard, the neighboring, the Tucker house, you see that there are 3 kids kind of playing in what snow remains.
At 11 o'clock at night?
Yep. This is suburban New York. It's a Sunday in the middle of April, spring break.
Okay.
So they're playing. So you guys are going to head to a better hotel. We will simply say that you find that hotel, you go to sleep, and nothing really exciting happens. We're just going to fast forward to the next day.
Okay.
All right? So, morning. We'll go over the details of the hotel a little bit later. I would like to focus right now on what your guys' plans are. You guys probably all have separate rooms. So,
well, we're probably all having breakfast together.
Okay. There's probably, if you guys are getting a much better hotel, there's probably a restaurant within the lobby of the hotel that you can eat at.
I don't think we can afford that.
I basically show up before.
Fowler just went home.
Okay. How about you guys meet at maybe a diner across the street?
Yeah, a Denny's or something across the street.
A Denny's. We'll say it's a Denny's. It's a Maestro's. There's no Maestro's here. Yeah, you guys.
Maestro's doesn't serve breakfast anyway.
No. So you guys are at.
It's the depression.
Yes.
The breakfast is a cup of joe and a side of dough.
Yeah, it's literally like a biscuit, maybe some eggs. But you guys are in this diner, coffee.
So, gentlemen, having had a night to think on it, we've got some things to go over. The biggest thing for me right now is I'm thinking about that ledger. We have the ledger, yes.
You do have the ledger.
You said that the ledger had a big old New York City logo thing on the front of it.
Yes, it had the seal of the city of New York, which you can recognize because of the card that Marcus Finley gave you. It's got the same seal.
Right. Everybody's probably knows the seal. Anyways, the question is why does an architect have this book?
I'm thinking what Finley said over dinner is spot on. He's got to be on the take or something. Or if he's not on the take, he knew of someone who was, which is why he's got that secreted away, maybe as insurance to.
Well, it makes me wonder if he's doctoring the books. The thing is that he's not really an accountant; he's an architect. Of course, it doesn't mean he doesn't know math.
Yeah, but there's all bids, sealed bids and contracts and all things. I mean, I'm not in that game myself, but I read the papers.
Could he
the mob are
blackmailing somebody, like say a person that he's doing the architect where building for? Could he be blackmailing them?
Well, or
he found something, and he's blackmailing them to get more money, or
I'm not
something
sure.
like that.
It could be. I think that. Isn't one of the tactics of the mob to pretend to be working on buildings and collecting money and not actually doing a damn thing?
Yes. However, Fowler would know this. I don't know if your characters would, but I'm sure Fowler would fill you in. The mob right now in New York, it's theorized by the public and the newspapers that that the mob is on the take. That what's the best way to be pals with the city government and not get arrested? Work for the person in charge. With what Finley told you, it sounds like everything stems back up with Mayor Walker. So it's very possible that there's mob connections involved or something like that. There's so many different things. Blackmail, he's doctoring the books, mob. There's no real information to go on other than you have a ledger.
Well, one of the things that we Finley suggested was that we see if we can get ourselves into the municipality building. If we could pose as officials, but I think that it's likely we would get our credentials checked, and we don't have time to forge those kind of documents. I do think, however, that a 40-story building, the way they're describing it, I haven't actually seen it. Fowler, you've seen it.
Yes, I have.
Probably has a huge maintenance staff. And sometimes, janitors, they don't even see them. The janitors just, put on their little jumpsuits and walk in, and nobody pays any attention at all. Even if there are other employees there, in a building that size, there's probably 200 employees. They wouldn't necessarily recognize you as not belonging there. You've got your jumper on. So that's a possible way in. We could get a subpoena. That's a third way in.
I wanted to interrupt you, but I wanted to bring up a point about the ledger thing. Was it Bethany or Samantha? Didn't they say that there were lawyers involved that handled the paychecks?
So Samantha is not really in charge of the estate. That doesn't exist in the 1930s. The man is in charge of the estate.
Right.
And with Timothy gone, the estate falls into the lawyer, and so the lawyer of the estate is funneling money into Samantha's bank account as needed. So someone is managing the estate along with Samantha.
Right.
Well, I only wanted to bring it up because if Timothy was up to no good, like the suggestions of maybe blackmail or something like that, I find it doubtful that he would have a lawyer be looking into his books. Unless, of course, the lawyer is corrupt too. But
aren't they all?
Hey now.
If the lawyer is making enough money, here's the big question along with that, and that's like, where is all this money coming from? The man was a civil servant. He was an architect for the city. He wasn't like, the guy who designed the Eiffel Tower or anything. He was just, he basically designs cubes that sit in a place and have building. He's not going to be making a fortune, and yet they seem
Maybe
to
it's
have
money
money.
laundering.
Money laundering, possible, but it's not a very good way to do it. I think that there's definitely something going on here. And if we can get up into that guy's office, we don't know where it is.
Question.
What are we hoping to find out if we go to the office, though?
What's that?
What are we hoping to find out if we go to the office?
More information, I guess.
Exactly. Question for Thomas. Would anybody recognize Dexter on the street? Or
they'd recognize you.
Okay, so then I'm probably not going to go to the office then.
As we did point out, that he's on the radio.
Yeah, they have likenesses of the other characters as well, the other people. So, I mean, it's a 40-story building that houses the entire, there's 5 boroughs all working in this one building. Mm-hmm. Someone may recognize you. Someone may go, "Hey, aren't you Hawk? I see you're on that poster." And then you look over, and it's like a drawn poster.
We're about to sideline this whole game. You used my picture, Fowler?
It's your likeness.
I am so going to sue you.
It's your likeness because you're
I don't care.
And let me tell you, Fowler, that picture you used of me, very nearly a hate crime.
What?
I mean, given that my character's entire role in that radio show is to be scared of things and then say oy vey. It's not the most accurate portrayal, is it?
Well, Mr. Hawk and Mr. Epstein, Tommy's a great lawyer, and if you need somebody to work for you, you know, he can sue Fowler for you.
Yeah,
Well,
I feel like I've been defamed.
Tommy, you know law better than any of the rest of us. What would be involved in us getting a permit to get into that building? We're just going after an architect. We're not going after anything that would be, you know, like we're not going after trying to get into the DA's office or anything like that. We're just trying to get into an architect's office because he's missing.
You mean like a search warrant type thing?
Yeah, or a subpoena or whatever they call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
From a judge.
Tommy, go ahead and roll a law roll.
Good, because I have no idea. Pass. Almost a hard, but not quite.
Okay, so the process is essentially that there needs to be probable cause. So by showing that you need someone official, so you need like an officer or a detective, someone over probably a sergeant. They would then go to a judge and they would get approval to search the area. But once again, there has to be probable cause that the location has something relevant to the case. Otherwise, they just be handing out search warrants left and right, and cops just go anywhere. So the judge would then need to approve that. It then needs to go through the DA's office and then to you. So it's a whole bureaucratic swamp.
If we have what evidence do we have? We don't really have any evidence at all. We know that the check in the checkbook was written for $300 to a W. Darby. We need to follow that up. And that was on March 17th. On March 18th, Timothy disappeared. So, and he's been missing now for
about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need to find out who that fellow is.
W. Darby.
There's
probably a lot of them in the phone book.
Yeah, but didn't one of you say we could trace it back through his
through the bank? Yeah, through the bank. If Darby's connected to the municipal building, then that would be a good reason to go into the building. No, but we can check the check from the bank.
Well, we got to get all these P's and Q's in order before we approach a judge and say that we have probable cause to go up and search his office.
Well, we can't approach a judge. It has to be a police officer.
Well, I'm a detective. I mean, I'm with a different...
You're private eye, right?
Well, yes, that's true. Well, then we just have to go to the precinct office and talk to them and tell them what we need. And I mean, it might take a couple of days, but those are the proper channels. Or we can get a bunch of jumpsuits and we can dress up like maintenance men and just walk right into the building.
I suppose if you did that, you can sneak in, get the jumpsuits off, and then actually speak to the people in the office, saying that you're investigating the case of the missing person.
Oh, I'm not sure that there's anybody in that office right now. From what Finley said, they're on lockdown. That they're probably not letting any of the people that work there in there.
I say let's go at night.
Well, that would be when they would have the maintenance crew probably come
Yeah.
in. So
Well,
they might have them. All the maintenance crew might be off, but like I say, it's oddly enough they wouldn't probably suspect somebody on the maintenance crew. They would just, yeah, you're a janitor, just go in.
Yeah, anonymous.
They're more interested in the people that work there that could actually be changing the books and doing creepy stuff like that.
in order to change my appearance, I'm gonna get like a fake mustache or something like that to kind of.
Well, I'm sure that Felix would know where there's like a, well, I'm maybe not here, but a costume shop or
like
makeup
something
shop.
to kind of
Theatrical
change my
makeup.
facial just a little bit, just so it looks different.
Hawk,
I can do that for you. I
Can I-
give you a different parting, and perhaps a handlebar moustache, an eye patch.
It works for Superman.
Yes.
The other, sorry.
And an eye patch.
can I have Hawk do an intelligence roll?
Sure. 38. What? Where's my thing? Oh, jeez. I knew something was missing all this time. Yes, I passed. I got better than half.
Suppose that you guys did go in as janitors. But first of all, you don't know what kind of uniforms they were, or how to get them. And then the second thing is, it's a 40-story building.
Right.
There's no way of, you'd have to go to every floor and go to every door.
There's going to be a directory. There's going to be one of those things on the wall that's got all the little names and all of the numbers.
I think somebody said that they'd been taken down.
Oh.
Felix said they've been removed. Their government people are going.
Why would they remove them?
Government people are able to go in, but like the media and the public can't. They can't go up past the lobby. They're not letting anybody else in.
Mr. Hawk, could I make a suggestion?
Sure.
We've got some maybe easier clues to follow up as well. There's the bottles of pills that you found.
Oh, yeah.
And seemingly it's just at the grocer's shop down the road from his house where they picked them up. And we've got the book and the medallion. And I think you suggested going to a synagogue or to see somebody that would maybe know about that.
Know something a little bit more about it.
Well, we can come back to the
We could go
federal
to
building.
we could go to the bank to
when
find
we
out about
find
the check.
more information about.
Well,
this.
we could also hire an accountant, a CPA, and have him look over these books and see what they mean. Are they corrupted? Was somebody trying to pull something here?
Yeah.
I guess we probably want, maybe not a certified public accountant, maybe somebody a little less certified that still knows. We don't want the person going immediately to the authorities.
Thomas, is this ledger thing, is this an official New York City ledger, or is this his own personal checkbook?
This is an official government document. Like, it's illegal to have this.
It's got a big old New York City logo on it.
I wonder if that's what the police are looking for in the building.
Could very well be.
It might be something that we should just turn over to the police, but I'd like to see if we can find anything out before we turn it over to
Yeah, I was just about to say that there, Hawk. We should find as much information as we can out of it and then hand it over to the authorities.
Fowler, something that you would probably know more than the others. The New York City police are just as corrupt as the mobsters. About 70% of the New York City police right now are beating people in the street, mugging people in the poorer districts. Like, they're just as bad as mobsters right now. Like, the city is literally in anarchy for the next 2 years.
Well,
Yeah.
in the governor's office, I mean, it's
He's probably corrupt too.
he's the one who's doing the investigation.
Yes, Governor Roosevelt in Albany is doing the investigation into Mayor Walker and the entire city government.
So all we need to do is find somebody associated with that investigation, not just a cop off the street. How about this, Fowler? Your show, surely you have accountants that work on the show to make sure that the budget and everything is in line.
Yeah.
Do you think you could persuade one of them to have a look at this book? Don't necessarily tell them what it's what it's attached to. Just see if there's any strange goings on in the book.
That is a good idea. I can probably tonight I will talk to one of my accountants and see if they can kind of figure this out.
Or if you have a personal accountant for your own spending pleasure.
That's exactly what I was saying.
Okay.
My accountant will. I trust him with
So
everything.
Felix, you seem to know about that medallion.
Well, I know what it says. I mean, I don't know much about. I think it's some sort of old.
Talisman of some sort.
Yeah, it's some sort of.
And yet, it's got some sort of an Egyptian connection with the letter that was with it.
Well, those guys, they mixed it all together: Egyptian, Kabbalistic, medieval. It was all like the Golden Dawn and
Right.
Theosophists and all that stuff. It's a bit last century, I know.
Oh, Theosophists. Don't talk to me about Theosophists. Sorry. Is it also possible that this is just something that somebody picked up at an occult shop and it has no real meaning at all?
I guess so. I mean, I wouldn't know where you'd get something like that. I mean, it's not my kind of, magic.
Can someone do? Is there an appraise roll in Call of Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Go ahead and let's have Hawk and Felix both give me appraise rolls.
Well, my appraise is only 5%, but I'll give it.
Yeah, same here.
Let's try.
47. I barely made it.
Oh.
Praise the hell out of this.
Can I use 42 points of?
Oh
Sure.
No! I got a 9.
Oh, that's so much
5.
closer.
Go on, I'll do the luck. I'll spend 4 luck.
Okay.
Yeah, I know this.
Okay. Yeah. So Felix, that the medallion seems to be well made, but not made for like an item for sale. It looks like it was like handcrafted, so to speak. There's no real way of saying it. It's not like you'd find this in occult shops here and there. This looks like it's a one of a kind thing, but it's not expensive. It's just a slab of brass with etchings on it.
But it looks like it's been done properly. It's not like a cheap cast.
No. It looks like literally a small disc of brass that someone has finally taken like a pick and etched in everything, and very meticulously they've chipped off the yellow and gotten down to that glistening white and just made it very nice and very elegant. But it's not perfect enough to be something that would be like master crafted or like manufactured. It looks like it was handmade. It's a one-time object. It probably is worthless in any kind of shop.
Well, that's how they're meant to be made, isn't it? They're meant to just be sort of made like that. I think they were meant to make them at a certain hour of the day or the month, or
So there's a whole ritual that goes with it.
Phase.
Only in holy times.
I have a question for you, Felix. Is your knowledge of the medallion and what it says? In other words, you said that it's a psalm of David that's written on it.
Yeah, it's a psalm.
Do you know that because that's what you've been taught, or do you know that because you can actually read Hebrew?
I can actually read Hebrew.
Okay.
Oh yeah, my father wanted me to be a rabbi.
I was going to say we could go have a rabbi take a look at it and see if there's anything wrong with the way that it was created. Or
when I was a boy, I was sent to yeshiva. But,
well, we also have the book. Henry has not been able to translate it because he's not that good at it, but we could find somebody who is.
Well, it's fully translated.
Oh,
Yeah, there's the Arabic, and then in the double spacing, someone has meticulously handwritten English translations. So it's fully translated, but it's like a 200-page thing. You'd have to like sift through it and actually like study it, which could take some time, just due to the language of it.
We'll say that Henry's doing that today.
Okay.
So what does that leave us with?
What I'll do is,
we should get and bring some of the pills with us and ask the pharmacist if indeed the pills in the pill box are in fact the pills that are labeled there, because he seems to have a lot of stomach problems, but way too many stomach problems.
Weren't they just
I don't know.
Oh no, sorry. I do beg your pardon. No, sorry. Ignore what I just said. I've just accidentally confused our game with an episode of CSI I watched the other day.
Oh,
sorry. I just
CSI. What is CSI?
It's a radio play thing. It's it's broadcast.
It's probably a knockoff of my show.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. There's a big demand for the oy vey character, particularly. So, tell me, Tommy, how would I go about trademarking my name as the Great Bambone?
That's fairly easy. You just have to fill out a few forms, talk to a lawyer, and that's about it.
Right. Yeah, I think I might look into that now that we're getting paid.
So what do we have?
The benefits in doing that.
Makes it easier to sue people.
Yeah.
Henry's working on the book. The medallion, we pretty much know what it is. We probably don't need an expert of any kind to look at it. The
municipality building.
Municipality. I can't say that word. There's my word that I can't.
There's
say.
Your word.
That's the building that we all probably couldn't get into, and probably wouldn't be able to find his office anyway.
Well, Finlay couldn't get in.
We have the ledger and we have the pills. So shall we do the pills first? That's just like, let's drop by the. Is there a pharmacy written on the pill boxes or pill bottles?
There's also a jazz club too.
Well, we don't even know if that's in this town. We can try to look it up.
Jazz clubs sell a different kind of pills.
And then also, at the end of the day, when I go back to my apartment, I will get somebody to look at that.
We've also got W. Darby. See if we can. Well, maybe we can get a hold of your accountant today and just go over there and talk to him.
I think I can do that.
Probably have to phone him, but yeah, no, that's probably possible.
Is there a phone book in the? I'm sure there's one here in the diner.
Probably not in the diner, but there's probably on every corner right now in this time there is a phone booth. So you could probably just go out of the diner and just walk to the corner and go into a phone booth.
Give me a second. Let me see how many W. Darbys there are in town.
Okay. So Hawk leaves. Hawk, give me a spot hidden.
07.
Okay.
That's a pass. Actually, wait. I didn't even really. It's half of an extreme.
Oh, so it's basically a critical. Critical is a 1, but it's right. Basically. All right. All right. So you enter into the phone booth, rotary payphone. You open up You open it up. Give me a library use roll. It's a huge document. You're in New York City.
And it's alphabetical. Come on.
Yep.
How could I possibly fail?
There's boroughs.
No, I passed.
That's good. Even if you didn't.
It's alphabetical.
Yeah. Well, it's divided by borough.
There's 5 of them. I just look for W. Darby in every one of them.
Darby is because it goes by last name. Darby is a not a fairly common name.
It's Irish, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's Irish English, but it's common, but not too common. W. Darby, however, is not in the book.
There's no W. Darby, which just means he's not in New York. That makes it hard. We're going to have to go to the bank and see if we can figure out where this came from.
Yes.
So I turn around and I just walk back in.
All right. And as you walk back in, you see that there is there's a waitress kind of pouring everyone coffee as you sit back down.
Okay. Thanks, babe. No, I don't say that.
She smiles at you
Next
and she walks away.
Coffee.
All right. What is the plan? What do you guys want to do?
Well, we got to do, guys, we can try to do the bank thing too, because there's no W. Darby in the book, in any of the boroughs. So there are Darbys, lots of them, but no W. Darby, which just means he's not in New York. He could be anywhere in the world.
Could it be Georgian?
It could be anywhere in the world. It could be Georgia in Russia.
Remember, their family is from Georgia. Maybe they are.
Except that this is Timothy's book, right?
Yeah, this is Timothy's checkbook.
So it could be anywhere here. Well, let's find out from the bank if we can. How do you go about doing that?
As I explained to Tommy last episode, essentially all you do is you just say, you have to prove that you're law enforcement or that you're investigating in some way. But essentially what you do is you just say, I need you to, here's the check stub. It's got the check number and the routing number. Figure out where the check went. And they just check the routing number, because the routing number is what goes to the other bank. Right. And then they get the account information from that, because the two banks need to communicate through the routing number.
If the check was cashed.
That's only if the check was cashed will the other bank have the information.
Well, Fowler, you've got the biggest credential here as far as a detective, so you have to come with us to the bank, and then you'll have to talk to the bank clerk and tell them that you need to trace this check.
I could possibly do that.
So shall we go to the bank? What does everybody else say? Unless you guys want to do something else. Eiffel Tower. What's that thing called? Statue of Liberty?
Statue of Liberty. It's only the most iconic thing in New York City right now.
Well, you do know why I said Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
He did design both of them. So.
He did.
At least the framework inside.
And we never thanked him. Anyways, all right. So, you would go to the checks were made out by a certain bank, so you just go to a branch of that bank. It is called Union Trust of New York. So that's an easy. It's the Union Trust of New York. It's a huge branch right now. So you're standing outside. It is cloudy. It's cold. What are you guys doing as you're approaching? Who is taking lead? Are all of you going inside, or some of you staying out?
It's warmer inside.
Yes, it is warmer inside.
I think William would stay in the car. We're in the car, aren't we? We're in Dexter's car.
Yeah.
He's kind of getting some ideas for some stories, and he's getting a little bit fixated on the men in black.
Okay.
That have appeared. So he's actually decided to play the role of a spy for the moment, because not all of us need to go into the bank, and he's checking down the streets to see if there's anybody of interest following us or around and about, and he's jotting some stories down.
Okay.
I'll stay with you, Willem, if that's right.
That's great.
All right.
Am I the only one going in the bank, or is
I'm going with you.
Okay.
All right.
Just in case.
So you step outside. It's a crowded street. and walk inside. And immediately, as soon as you walk inside, you're hit with the blast of warm air, and it's relatively quiet. It's relatively calm within the bank. There are 3 tellers open, and they're just kind of sitting there. And as soon as you walk in, they kind of perk up. They kind of sit up. They were leaning on the counters before you guys showed up. So, who is taking point?
Dexter?
Okay, so I will go up to one of the tellers, and
You probably have to talk to a manager.
So so you approach a teller, and he smiles and he says, "Hello, I'm Oliver. How can I help you today? Do you have an account with us?"
No, I don't have an account with you guys. I need to talk to one of the managers here. We're investigating a case about a missing person, and we found one of his checks. I'm wondering if you can help us find some more information about this.
Well, sir, I'm sorry. Let me go speak to my manager very quickly. And he smiles and he nods, and he steps away for a brief moment. But it's only for about 45 seconds before he returns and smiles at you, Fowler, and he says, unfortunately, my manager has informed me that unless that you can provide us with some kind of credentials, we're not really supposed to divulge members of the bank's information.
Well, we are detectives, sir.
Do you have anything that I can see or show him?
How about you get your manager and bring him out here, and we'll talk to your manager.
Go ahead and give me an intimidate roll, Hawk.
What's my intimidate? 45. I got 17. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, he's immediately like shaken, and he rushes away, and this time for about a minute before the manager comes out. He's a burly man, curly mustache. He's being followed by the teller, who's just kind of like meekly standing behind him, and the manager says, "My name is David. I'm the manager of this establishment. Can I help you, gentlemen?"
Well, we're sorry to bother you. We've got, and I pull out my my wallet with my ID and everything, and I show it to him. And I'm like, we're detectives working on a case of a missing person, and all we need to know is if this check was cashed and whereabouts it was cashed. And I show him the stub.
All right, so he kind of takes the wallet and he pulls out the private investigator's license, which both you and Fowler would have. He looks it over, he puts it back in the wallet, slides it over, and then silently slides the check over, and says, "It could take us a little while for us to get this information."
How long is a little while?
Probably a few days.
Days. You can't just...
We'd have to.
You don't.
We'd have to call the different banks within the area, and just to make sure, and we had to figure out which branch this went to, and we'd have to contact them, and they'd have to provide the information. There's a lot of legalese involved, but it shouldn't take too long if it was cashed.
Well, of course we're not going to leave this with you, but we can get all this information down that's on here, and I'll leave you a card.
Yes, we'll contact you if we have anything, which, like I said, in maybe a couple days, we'll have something. We just need to make sure with the other bank and get this information and then provide it to you.
Now comes another problem. How do they contact us? I guess we tell them that we're currently staying at the hotel, the room.
Sure.
I also say, I hand them my number, and I'm like, "This is my house number. It's usually somebody there to answer."
Yeah,
so.
Contact his place.
Yes, sir. And he kind of jots down all the information that you're providing him, Fowler. He says, now, unfortunately, we'd have to keep the stub in order to verify with the other bank the routing number and the account number. I'm sure that is fine with you.
Why?
We'd have to provide them with a physical copy of the stub.
I see. Well,
I guess that's all.
This is part of an investigation. So it is extremely important that this does not get lost. There could be criminal charges if this gets lost. Do you understand?
He nods and he kind of holds up a hand and says, me and my staff will make sure that this is filed away and kept very safe until you either return or we provide you with the information, in which case what you can come back and we can return it to you.
Well, perhaps we'll do that. It might be just as easy for us to pop back in here in a couple days.
Right out, sir.
Thank you very much. And
thank you so much.
He shakes your hand.
Pleasure doing business with you. Nice bank.
And he kind of smiles weakly and says, yes, thank you. And he takes the stub and he returns to the back office.
All right.
All right. So you guys walk out of the bank and you get back in the car.
This is just one of those days. Let's go to the pill place. I think they call it Pharmacia. We got to grab some of those pills. I want to make sure they're the right pills.
Okay.
Let's just go check and see.
We want the Pharmacia, not the Ferretia. Because that's a hardware store.
No, yeah. Or the Taqueria.
Okay.
So
you guys are going to go to the grocer where his prescriptions were being processed, correct?
Right.
All right.
Yes.
Which is literally right down the street. It's like 2 houses away from the Tucker's house. So if you really needed to get the pill bottles, you would literally just walk down the block, get them, and then just walk right back. It's not that far. It's 2 houses down. Okay, so you guys pull up in front of Pop's Grocery and Deli. It's relatively busy. It's
groceries, delicatessen, and drugs. All in
yes.
Excellent.
It's literally it is right on the corner of 71st and First Avenue. So this is like a hub for the entire neighborhood, or this block at least.
All right.
So there are people going in and out. All right. So you guys step out. Who's going inside? Everyone?
Do you guys want to go in?
I'm happy to go in, but we maybe should have a detective in case we're asking about drugs. One of you guys, maybe.
I'll follow behind you.
Okay. What would the others like to do?
I'll go in.
Yeah, I'll go in too.
What about you, Tommy?
Yeah, you said deli. I could get a sandwich right now.
Yes.
What if they have little Debbie snacks? I like those.
Yeah, the deli sounds actually really good. And
all right. So you guys go in. It's very cramped. It's a very cramped, small, probably family-owned grocery. There's one little teller, and he's doing everything. The man is an older, probably around 60, 65, black man. He's got a big apron over him. He's wearing a checkered shirt, and he's helping a customer out. And as soon as you open the door, William, I'm having you lead in. The bell rings, and he smiles. And he smiles this big, happy grin. He's got cataracts in his eyes, and he says, "Welcome to Pops." And he kind of nods, and he's giving the lady her change. This lady is old. She's old. Tommy, can I have you give me a intelligence roll, please?
Yes. Regular pass.
You didn't get a good glimpse, but you can recognize her. It's the woman from across the street who she saw you and then closed the blinds and then was watching you with one eye through the blinds.
Yeah, I definitely remember their eyes.
So she literally she takes her bag of groceries, and she's old. She's like bent over, and she kind of looks at you with a little bit of a sneer, and just kind of waddles past you. It's crowded in the back where the deli is. Where another African American man. He's younger, probably around 40. He's younger compared to the man at the teller.
Thinking they're letting the guy handle the money who's got cataracts.
Yeah. But it's very crowded over where the deli is. As for the grocery, not so much. He steps out. The larger, older gentleman steps out from behind the counter, and he goes, "What can I do for you folks today?" And he kind of like undoes his apron and folds it up.
Well, William decides to go for it and try being a detective for 5 minutes, and he says, "We're a group investigating one of your customers who is missing at the moment, and his name is Timothy Tucker. And we understand that he gets his prescriptions here. He's gone missing, and we're very concerned. The family are concerned for him."
Oh, yeah, I know Timothy.
Bring out one of the bottles and say, "Can you tell us what his medication was for, what he was taking?"
Well, I know Timothy. He's the boy that was right up the street there.
That's right.
My son, and he points to the man behind the delicatessen counter, and he says, "My son and him, they talked all the time." Well, I'm sorry, gentlemen. And he kind of passes the pill bottle back to you, and he says, "But I already told those state investigators everything I knew when they came in here."
And well, we're working for the family, so would you mind just repeating what he was taking for us?
You were hired by Samantha, and he kind of gives this big smile. "Lovely lady. Haven't seen her in here much after she got pregnant." "All right. Well, let's see what we can do. What did you say your name was?"
My name's William Olmsted Green.
And he gives this big happy grin, and he holds out a big hand, and he says, "Name's Pop."
I turn around to Tommy and say, "This guy's the happiest guy I've ever met in my life."
In New York City too.
And he looks at the other four of you, and he says, "And you all are with him, this young man?"
Yeah, but I'm going to get a roast beef sandwich.
Well,
Can I have one of those Pearson's salted nut rolls?
Oh, go ahead and you grab him, bring him up to my son over there at the counter on the other end. You let him handle it.
Felix, you just grab your own nuts and let that guy handle them.
I guess that passes as funny up.
Okay, sorry.
Boston.
And
It was a bit salty.
And he looks at William and he says, "Well, you come with me and I'll look in the back and I'll look at the files. All right?"
Great, that's great. Thanks for your help.
And he says, "Well, as best as I can." And he like points at his eyes and then smacks you on the shoulder hard and just begins busting up, just laughing. And then he goes, "Well, let's go look." And he begins striding towards the big. It's not big. It's a window that's got a grated mesh with a hole in it, and then the door next to it. And he opens the door, and he says, "Now, a young man, you wait out here, and I'll bring out what I can find. All right?"
Great, thank you.
All right. What about you guys? You guys said you were going up to the deli counter.
yeah.
So you guys approach, and the man behind the counter, like I said, he's around 40, and he smiles and says, "Hi, welcome to Pops. Are you guys looking to get something?"
Yeah, I'll take a roast beef sandwich with some nice dark deli mustard on it, and you can put it between two chunks of bread there.
Sure. White or rye?
Rye.
And he nods, and he says, "Good choice." And he writes it all down. And he says, "Are you all together?"
Yeah.
And he nods, and he gets everyone else's order. And And as he's writing your guys' orders down, he looks up and says, "So you're talking to my pop over there?"
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
What's this about?
Well, we heard that you were friends with Timothy Tucker.
Well, we live in the same neighborhood. Our house is just across the street from the grocer, or we live right next to the Smiths. We would go over to Morgan's house maybe once a week, and we play poker. Timothy, that's really the only time we ever saw him.
Does he see he liked to play poker, huh?
Well, he was good at it, but I wouldn't say he liked it. And he puts one sandwich on the table as he's literally talking and making it.
Did you guys gamble a little while you were playing poker?
Oh, of course, yeah, but not too much. Pennies.
What would you say he was like? I mean, we don't know him very well, but
well, he was a quiet guy, really shy. He was holed up in that house pretty much as long as I can remember, other than the poker games every week. He'd go to work, he'd come home. That's about it. He kept to himself mostly. But when we played, he was a nice guy, Samantha, I know much better. Samantha's a wonderful, wonderful lady. When my wife passed just a couple of years ago, she came over and she definitely helped me and my son out, and Pop, of course.
Would you, in your experience with Mr. Tucker, did you ever play with anyone who you thought might be kind of, I don't know how to say it, not very friendly towards Mr. Tucker? Oh
no, it's just us on the block. It's just Ralph and Mr. Huckabee. It's just us on the block. No one else really plays. But he stopped coming eventually. Timothy did.
Well, I'm sorry to say that he's gone missing, and we're.
Oh yeah, we know that. He's been missing for about 2 weeks now, right? You guys, and he kind of, and as he puts the last sandwich down, he says, "Now you guys, you guys aren't with those state investigators, are you?"
No,
we're working for Samantha.
Oh.
State investigators. Who came in? You have any idea?
Group of guys. They had badges. They were saying they were just looking into the disappearance of Timothy on behalf of the city.
When did they show up?
God, they showed up around the time he disappeared. At least 2 days afterwards. They talked to my son. And Brian didn't know anything, and he came and got me, and I talked to him, and
who are we talking to? Are we talking to the deli guy?
Yeah, you're talking to
Are there 3 people
Pops here, or his son.
There's Pops, Arthur, and his son.
Grandson.
But the Brian is not here. It's just Arthur and Pops.
Okay, so Arthur also has a son.
Yes, they all live together.
Okay,
it's Arthur Senior, Arthur Junior, and Brian, but they call him Pops.
Okay.
They asked me how much I knew Timothy, if I knew Timothy and Samantha's daily schedule, but all I really knew about him, other than what I learned from the poker games, is he worked with the city planner's office, and he left home around 6 a.m. every day, and he took the train down on First Avenue all the way to Central Station. That's about it. That's all I could tell him. There were about 4 of them. These state investigators.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. One of them. He said his name was Harry. I believe his name was Harry. And I've seen one of them I have. I've seen one of them around here lately. He was sitting up on the abandoned house right next to Miss Campbell, the one across the street from the Tuckers. He was standing on that porch, smoking cigarettes and eating candy bars, and he'd come in here once in a while. And eventually, I asked him, "How's it going?" And they just said they're keeping an eye out and hoping the police do what they do best.
Did they ever give him? Did you ever give you a last name?
No, none of them did. I don't even know the guy who was standing up on the porch. I just knew he was with the state investigators. He was standing out on that porch, every day for about a week. And he'd come and go. He'd show up for an hour and he'd leave for 2, and then he'd show back up.
Right. Well, thanks. I take a bite of my Sims.
So William pops and opens the door, and he's got a piece of paper in his hand, and he says, "Well, all I could find was this. The only thing helpful I could get you. I don't know any of the pills and what they do. That's more a friend of mine who comes in here and works the pharmacy every other day. But I got this. This is his doctor. Timothy. He'd come in here and he'd be feeling all sorts of bad. So we'd give him some of that ginger ale, help his stomach. But this here," and he hands you the piece of paper. It's a doctor's name. It's Michael Desmura. He's got an office in Manhattan, 550 East 147th Street. He's the guy who kept sending the prescriptions over, and we kept filling them. So maybe he knows. And he kind of taps the paper in your hand.
Well, Pops, that's great. That's really great. That's a good help. So you reckon that Timothy really had a lot of health troubles then? He was back and forward.
Oh, yeah. He was getting sick all the time. It wasn't stomach issues. He was getting sick with the cold, even in the summer. He was getting colds all the time. He felt like crap a lot of the time, but he kept going to work every single day.
Was he a nervous man?
I wouldn't say nervous, shy mostly. He'd come in here, and you know me, as soon as they come in, I'm just hooting and hollering. And I brought him over, and I tried talking to him, but he doesn't really talk to me. He just kind of listens. He's stone cold, nice glasses. He's shaved off the mustache, though. I missed the mustache a little bit.
That's awesome. He misses the mustache. That's a belter, Thomas. Okay. Great. I wasn't expecting that at all. All right.
And he laughs when he says that too. And he says, "You need anything else?" Arthur, he's got all kinds of. He can talk all day about Timothy. They were friends, They would hang out every Tuesday.
Yeah, so you said. I'll go and talk to Arthur just now. Then,
all right.
Pops, you're one of a kind. I'm glad to talk to you.
Well, I'm glad to talk to you too. And he gives a big smile and he says, "But tell your friends, they even though you're my friend, they got to pay. You all got to pay."
Sure. I'm going for a sandwich.
And he smiles and he nods and he says that he'll ring you up over there. I'm a little tired, so I'm gonna sit on the stool. And he goes up behind the counter and he sits on a stool. And he's just leaning against the wall, resting.
Does he play a banjo or anything like that? No.
No, but he's definitely got an accent. He's definitely. So you approach. You guys
a southern accent.
Yeah. It's there.
Well, I'm Pops. We're definitely coming back to this store, and I go over and get a sandwich and talk to Arthur.
All right. So you approach just as he's ringing up the other four, and Arthur kind of looks over at you and he says, "Are you with them as well?"
Sure. Yeah.
So you're part of this investigation. Samantha hired all of you.
Yeah, Samantha. Yeah, she's a lovely person, but she's really missing her man.
And he nods, and he says, I know that feeling. I know what that's like. Well, like I said, all I really knew was, Timothy went to work, and Timothy was a relatively shy guy. But that's really about it. And I told all that to the state investigators when they came to me.
I just kind of whisper quietly as if I'm just trying to get a bit more personal, because I know the guys have already spoken to him. And I'm like, was there anything he ever said that he was worried about, or anything that was maybe going on that, maybe he wouldn't want to say to somebody else?
I know that he was close to his neighbor, Ralph Morgan. He's the neighbor right next to him. He's the one with the kids. I don't know if you've seen him.
No.
Well, I think that he knows a little bit. He was acting a little odd when Timothy stopped showing up to those poker games.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they
were friends. They were closer. I know. I don't know what my pop told you, but me and Timothy, we knew each other, but we weren't close or anything like that.
I know Pop said he's sure missed his moustache.
And when you say that, Arthur kind of shakes his head and says, my pop is losing it a little bit. So.
Oh, he's a good old guy.
Wow.
Anyway, I pick a sandwich out and I thank him. And
all right. Well, you got your sandwiches. It's rung up. It's about $3 for the five of you.
For all of those.
Yeah, let Dexter.
Okay, Dexter pays for them. And you guys leave, sandwiches in hand.
So we're all sitting in the car, and I said, guys, there's something that's coming together in my head. We've got corruption in City Hall. We've got a lockdown on the municipality building, and we've got state investigators looking for Timothy Tucker. We got Timothy Tucker with a city ledger in his safe. I think Timothy's on the run.
Yep.
Don't
Sounds
you?
like embezzlement to me.
That he's run because he's afraid they're going to, and the men in black, so to speak, that are in the neighborhood, they're state officials. They're hoping that he tries to sneak home, so that they're trying to nab him. Now, whether they're legitimate or whether they're affiliated with some mobsters, we don't know. But I think that's what's going on here, and if that's the case, we've got a probably an unsurmountable problem, and that's if Timothy Tucker doesn't want to be found, we will probably not find him. He could go out of state. He could go anywhere. He could change his name.
Well, look, I mean, I don't want to be the one to say this, but I guess I'm going to have to be. But I don't know about you, but times are hard, and $25 a day is good money. So I mean, I'm thinking, why don't we just stick at this and do what we can to see if we can find him for as long as the money keeps coming.
You're a sneaky, crafty, evil person, and I like that.
Hey, I'm not. I'm just saying. We do the job. We just try. We go out every day and try and find him.
Well,
as long as we're honest and we go out every day and we keep trying to do it.
He has a friend.
We just keep doing it for as long as they keep doing it. Giving us $25 a day. I mean, I'm happy with that.
He has a friend, Ralph Morgan, who lives next door, the house with the kids playing in the yard last night. It's possible that Ralph might know something. My guess is, look, Timothy has a wife, a lovely wife at home who is pregnant, and It's not an accident. They've got a room that they were starting to work on to be their nursery, so they were planning on having this child. He's not just going to leave her alone. My guess is he's waiting for the opportunity to come back and grab her so they can go. And that's what the state investigators are hoping for. They're hoping that he tries something like that so they can grab him. But Morgan might know something.
I'm going to throw out another alternative to that.
Okay.
But similar thinking. But everything I've seen and heard about Timothy and, in fact, his entire family, Samantha seems like a wonderful person. They all seem like good people to me. And I'm starting to think if maybe Timothy acquired that, like maybe he was offered some money to steal evidence, and that ledger book is some sort of evidence against the corruption. So these investigators that have been sent to come looking for them, they might be cops or they might be legitimate investigators, but maybe they're corrupt and they're now trying to get Timothy before this evidence is revealed.
I think that you might.
Yeah.
That's definitely a possibility. Maybe we have to carefully ascertain which is the truth. We need to get the guy to look at that ledger and tell us what it means.
Yeah, and
The key to all this.
I will definitely give him a call right away.
Why don't you call?
I'm just gonna throw this out there, one more thing. I'm just going to throw this out there. I don't like that lady across the street.
Yeah, and mentioning her, as you say, that lady across the street, you guys kind of all look, and she's like crossing the street. And as she's crossing the street, she's like looking at you as she carries her bags.
She keeps giving me the stink eye, and I don't like it.
I'm telling you, she's a servant of the elder gods.
She thinks that you're a real peeping Tommy.
And that's what I'll do is I will go call my accountant up and see
there's
if I
a payphone
can.
right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's an easy enough thing. Fowler, you make enough money as is for you to essentially employ this guy basically full time. You're almost his full client. So that's not anything difficult. But we'll say that you're in there and you're making the phone call, and they're waiting out in the car for you so that they can kind of formulate a plan as for the rest of the day. Since it's only like 11 o'clock, you've got the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So what else would you guys like to possibly do while the day is still young?
Well, I'd like. Go ahead, Ken.
It's about just going back to that nasty-looking neighbor. Did I overhear the guy telling you that the cop had went in the neighbor's house? Is that right? The Harry guy, Dirty Harry. Did he not camp out at the neighbor's house?
A neighbor's house, or I think he said it was an abandoned house.
Yeah, there's and you guys can see it. There is a house that is has a for sale sign that is currently next to the crotchety old woman at her house.
Okay.
So it looks like that's what they were mentioning. The abandoned house, as in it is an empty house that is up for sale, but it's the Depression. No one's buying.
Hey, Mr. Hawk, isn't it an old standby of investigators or detectives that you always ask where the person was last seen? Do we know that?
I actually didn't we go over that? Did he leave for work in the morning and then never came back?
Samantha says that he left for work and never came back.
Okay.
The question is whether he arrived at work, but the thing is that we can't find that out without getting into the municipality building and asking. Why does that word sound wrong? Municipality. That's the right. I've got it in my head that's.
You can call it the municipality. You can call it the municipal building.
It's like I think there's a missing N in there somewhere. But...
So, where would you guys like to go?
Well, once we know what if Fowler can get his lawyer, let's go there.
Okay. So you guys can't. So Fowler, you do schedule a time around 3:00. So after lunch, yeah.
Well, is there any reason to visit the synagogue or?
And I'm guessing it's at my apartment then?
It'll be at your accountant's office in Manhattan.
Okay. Does anybody... I come back and I relay the information 3 o'clock at my accountant's office.
That's great.
So I also let the guys know about the old pops couldn't tell us about the actual drugs, but he gave us the doctor's address, which is in 147th Street. So I don't know how far away that is. I think that was near the big hotel.
Yeah, it's near Times Square.
Well, we're heading into Manhattan anyway.
Well, can I just remind you guys that the neighbors right?
Oh, that's true.
House right now.
We're going to talk if Mr. Morgan's home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you want to go to the Morgans?
Ralph Morgan.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So you guys just literally pull up like another house.
Yeah.
And you literally just like drive. You literally just drive like 20 feet, and you're there. So you're out front of the Morgan's house. Nice little white picket fence. There's a decaying snowman that they built last night. That in the heat of today, even though it's gloomy, you can see that it's kind of like slumping to one side. Yeah, it's a small little house. Who would like to knock?
I'm going to be eating my sandwich in my vehicle, kind of watching, kind of being like a lookout.
Okay.
Well, I knock.
Okay. And you can kind of hear like muffled noises behind the door, and the door opens, and you're immediately hit with like the barrage of 3 children playing and screaming and being children. And it's a man, big rosy cheeks, balding. He's wearing a button-up shirt, and it's a wife beater. And he smiles at you. He's wearing khakis, and he smiles and he says, "Well, can I help you guys?" And you can hear a woman in the background yelling at children and saying, "Take it outside if you're going to do that. Take it outside. Let's go." And she's like clapping and getting these kids all up and ready to go.
Ralph Morgan?
And he says, "Is something wrong?"
No, not at all. We were hired by Samantha next door.
Oh. And he immediately turns his head and he says, "Cindy, it's about Samantha." And she says, "Who is it?" And he kind of looks and he says, "Are you police?"
Well, we're private detectives.
So Samantha hired you then?
Yes. But to find Timothy, if that's possible.
Oh, is there? You're probably here to ask us some questions. Come on in. And he kind of just like opens the door and allows you by. But he enters you into like a little mudroom area, and the kids immediately come in and they're like crashing into you in their snow gear. And they're laughing and they just run outside. And he says, "Sorry about the kids," as he closes the door.
That's okay. They're wonderful things to have. They're wonderful things for your friends and neighbors to have. And
he smiles and he says, "Yeah, well, here's the living room." And he points inside, and it's a rather quaint little living room. There's a card game that was like on the ground. It's all shuffled out because of the kids running around. And he says, "Why don't you guys sit on the sofa over here? You guys want anything? You want some Pepsi or water, coffee?"
Coffee would be nice.
Okay. What about you 3?
I'll have a Pepsi.
All right.
I could drink a coffee.
All right. And he looks at you and he says, "You're a little young to be a private investigator. What do you want to drink?" And he kind of laughs and rubs his hands.
Talking to me, I guess.
Yes.
Pepsi, sir.
And he yells back and he says, "Cindy, 2 Pepsis and 2 coffees, please. And bring me a Pepsi too." And she says, "Are you talking to the private? I'm talking to the private investigator, Cindy. You get the drinks and come on in." And he kind of smiles, says, "My wife, you know." So sit down. And he takes a seat in a plush like armchair.
I would like to do a look around, just covert, just sort of as I'm sitting down, to see if there's anything in the room that might belong to Timothy.
Well, the house as it is pretty cluttered and
I'm sure.
a little dirty. Yeah. Give me a spot hidden.
Oh, I think I didn't pass that. Oh my God, I missed it by 1.
Okay. Well, you don't see anything. But he sits down and he says, as soon when I heard that Timothy disappeared, I couldn't believe it. One day he's at his house and the next day he's gone.
When was the last time you saw Timothy?
Well, I see Timothy almost every day. I'd like to think of myself as probably his best friend. We saw each other every day coming home from work. I work at an accounting firm in the city, and so I get off around the same time as Timothy does. So we talk, and then of course I host. I do a little bit of a block get together. The men come over here, and then all the ladies go over to Samantha's, and they all kind of have drinks or whatever they do, and we play poker. We play poker into the wee hours of the evening, all of us. But then Timothy stopped coming, and I saw him less and less, and now he's gone.
So Timothy actually, his frequency of playing with you at poker lessened before he disappeared.
Well, he just stopped showing up completely. Back around beginning of February. Literally, all of a sudden, he just stopped coming. He looked a little run down before that, but I just kind of chalked that up to stress at work. City Hall is a disaster zone right now with all the controversy and the scandal, the murders. The whole damn government is just turned upside down. So I just kind of chalked that up to the whole reason why Timothy wasn't showing up.
And where do you work? Do you work for the city?
Oh, no. I work at a very small company. We essentially make textiles and stuff. I'm just the on-call accountant.
I see.
And that's when Cindy comes in, very thin, very short blonde hair, and she comes in with drinks in hand. She says, here you all go.
Oh, thank you very much.
Just and you are, and she kind of looks to the four of you.
Clifton Hawk. Actually, I probably stand up because
a
lady has entered the room.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Felix Epstein, ma'am.
And as soon as you guys kind of all stand up, she says, "No, you guys you should just sit." And that's when Ralph kind of chuckles and says, "And no one stood up for her in a while, so this is probably flattering to her." And in a joking manner, and Cindy just kind of.
So, Mr. Morgan.
Yeah.
As you understand, we're trying to find out what happened to Timothy and where he went. You said you're his best friend. Has he talked to you? Did he talk to you at all towards just before his disappearance about any problems that he might have gotten involved with, especially gambling or you say, well, we know he worked at the municipality building, maybe something at work that was really troubling him?
Well, there was some he was talking about his work in a really negative way. He just kept saying, like, I gotta get out of this because it's stressful. The investigation was heating up. Roosevelt was sending out letters. There were subpoenas coming from everywhere. He just said he couldn't take it. It was just too stressful.
I see.
And he was thinking about quitting for some time. As for the disappearances, no, I don't really. There was no odd behavior. Cindy then chimes in and says, "But he wasn't at the house either." And Ralph kind of just like looks up at her. He's like, "What? What are you talking about? He wasn't at the house?" And Cindy goes, "Well, he wasn't at the house. Me and Samantha would sit up and talk past 6 o'clock when he was supposed to show up at home, and he wasn't there. And if I've got anything to say, gentlemen, you've got a pregnant wife at home. If you're not there at 6 o'clock sharp, you're either A, getting drunk, or B, with someone else.
Mr. Morgan, did he drink?
And they kind of look at each other and says, well,
Just
we're not...
on a normal basis. We know that he gambled with you. Did he ever go out gambling outside your little get-togethers?
No, definitely not. And of course, we and he kind of looks you over and he says, me and Cindy here, we partake of the, a little bit of coffin varnish every once in a while. Nothing unusual.
Okay, you did something that's like this for me.
Coffin varnish is a slang term for alcohol.
Oh, okay.
Throw them the wink. Hey, look, everyone does. Everyone does.
I was like, what the hell are you doing?
Timothy didn't really drink all that much, but one time, Arthur, one of his friends, he gave him a pack of, and it was unmarked rum and stuff like that, and so we had a good time. But that was like,
so you would
back in August.
You would spend a little time with Mrs. Morgan. You would spend a little time with Samantha while he. What time would he normally show up then in the evenings?
Well, I was usually gone by then, but according to Samantha, it was.
What time did you leave?
Oh, I left about 8 o'clock. It was anywhere between 9 and 10 when he'd show up, and Samantha is just heartbroken, especially now that she's pregnant. And just when she gets pregnant and they're starting to have a kid, it took long enough, and now he's just gone.
Well, it seems. Let's hope that that's not the case. That there's some other reason.
What was Timothy's side of this story? I mean, did she ask him where he was going at night?
Well, I didn't really want to pry. I just, Samantha vented to me. We'd sit and have tea and coffee from about 4 to about 8, and I'd leave, and that was that. Anything that would happen, was between them. And Ralph then chimes in, and he says, "Yeah, well, like my wife said, you're either getting drunk or you're sleeping with someone else, and I don't see how you could be sleeping with someone else as pretty as Samantha." And Cindy then kind of glares down at Ralph, and he just kind of holds up his hands like this. And Ralph then goes, but like my wife said, it took them long enough to have a kid. He was shooting a little less than usual.
I'm going to try to use like a persuade on Ralph, but this is what I'm going to say. Ralph, first of all, I want you to understand that we're not with the state. And if Timothy was involved in anything, we're really not that interested in that aspect of it. All we are is hired to find Timothy. If he's in danger, if he needs help, we're here to provide it. We need to get him back to his wife. If you know anything, if you know whether he was having an affair, we're talking about a man's life, and we really need to be serious in this. If you're assisting him, if you're helping him to hide.
Whoa. No one said anything about assisting me.
I just did. I'm just saying you're his best friend. We would understand. And like I say, we are not with the police and we are not with the state. We just need to find out where he is.
Listen, I wish I knew, and that jolly kind of look goes away. I wish I knew, he just up and left. No one knows where he's at. Everyone on the block is just, well, everyone but Dorothy Campbell is just heartbroken.
You understand I have to ask. So
no, I get that. And then Cindy says, and in response to the affair, we don't know, but a woman knows.
I understand what she's saying. Can I just do a psychology on him to see if, in fact, I really believe that he doesn't know anything?
Yeah, go ahead.
That was part of it, to shock him so that he would,
Yeah.
I don't think I passed that. No, I didn't pass that, so I can't tell. But
he seems like he seems genuinely shocked and shooken. Like, he goes, I love Samantha. I think she's great, and I love Timothy. And Timothy was, like I said, he was one of my best friends. If he got into some kind of trouble, I'd want to know about it so I could help him.
Well, maybe you can help us. Is there anything about his activities outside of home and work and poker that you know about, that he liked to, I don't know, hang out at the museum or go to the library or go to see? What kind of movies did he like to go see?
He didn't really like movies, and he kind of scoffs and says he thought that they were just knocking off art. It's just moving pictures.
He was into art.
Yeah, and he showed me some stuff. He liked to do a lot of his stuff though in his house. He didn't need to go anywhere to paint. I know that he frequented art galleries sometimes, but that was usually with his wife. She liked art too.
I see. Well, the coffee's delicious. Thank you very much.
How about jazz clubs?
Say that again, Tommy.
How about jazz clubs? Did you ever mention a jazz club? Did he go after music every now and then?
And Ralph kind of scoffs and says, I don't think Timothy ever listened to music.
No, okay.
Timothy was a pretty bare minimum kind of guy.
Ralph, what is it about this neighbour? Is it Mrs. Campbell? She seems kind of nasty. Did she not like the family?
Oh, she doesn't like anybody. and he kind of scoffs, and Cindy crosses her arms at the mention of her, and she says, she's a nosy old woman. All she does all day is hoard stuff up in her house and watch out the window like some kind of crone, waiting for something to happen. And the minute something happens, what does she do? She calls the cops. Ralph then leans back in the chair and says, me and Cindy got drunk one night, and we were. And he kind of looks at Cindy, and Cindy kind of just rolls her eyes. We're fooling around on the couch. The kids were asleep. We were down here, just, having a good time. Our window was partially open, and that old witch, she's watching us. All of a sudden, I've got 2 uniforms knocking on my door, wondering if we're drunk, talking about public indecency. My window was half closed, for God's sake.
Yeah,
that's it. That was at 11 o'clock at night. She's up at 11 o'clock at night watching us people.
Yeah, she sounds like an old busybody.
And there was me thinking old people went to bed early.
No, she doesn't sleep, it seems.
There's one in every neighborhood.
Yeah, you're telling me. She's horrible. She doesn't talk. I know that Samantha, tried inviting her over to their little girls thing when we did our guys' night on Tuesdays, and she came over a few times, but she was positively horrible and never came back, even though Samantha kept inviting her.
You had a little girls thing that you guys did while the boys were playing poker. Who else did you invite to those?
Well, we of course invited Mrs. Huckabee, and then of course we invited. Let me pull up her name here. We invited Donna as well. Donna Richard, or Donna Smith. She lives across the street from us.
I see.
The Willises. We invited the Willises wife over, but she passed away about 3 years ago.
Oh,
so.
I see.
But no, that's really about it. Like I said, we invited Mrs. Campbell over, but she was horrible. You're supposed to bring a meal. It's a potluck. You'd bring a meal and we'd sit and talk. She'd bring nothing. And she'd just sit there and and ask us questions and try and get information out about us. And it was horrible. It was an awful experience.
There's one of those in every neighborhood. They're sad, poor people who have nothing better to do than.
And Cindy kind of nods. Anything else?
Well, at the moment, nothing I can think of. How about the rest of you?
Like, thank you very much for the Pepsi. It was great.
Well, you can take the glass. She points at the glass in your hand. You just recycle it because it's the bottle, the glass bottles. Right? And with that, you guys are going to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess. There was something that was right here, and I was trying to find it again. But
well, if you remember, they're always here.
Right.
So, as you guys are leaving, Cindy says, goodbye, and she closes the door.
Oh.
Yes, Felix?
I was just before she closes the door, could I ask him one last question?
Sure.
Mr. Morgan, one last thing.
and he kind of perks up and looks at you.
Do you remember Timothy ever mentioning someone called William Darby or William Derby?
No, I've never heard that name before.
Never heard that name.
Have you heard of it, Cindy? And Cindy shakes her head. I mean, I've never heard it.
How about Roy Klein?
No. Never heard a name like that. All right. And they say, well, we're sorry that we couldn't help any further.
How about his brother Arthur? Did he talk about Arthur much?
Ross says he doesn't really talk about his family very often. I know that that sister of his, the one that's staying over there now, Bethany, she came down a few times and they visited. I've seen Arthur, not just when he came down to look for Timothy. I've seen him like once or twice. Bethany is the one who comes down the most. But I've never really talked to him.
All right. Well, if we need anything, we know where you live. Thank you. If you hear anything, please contact us.
We'll contact Samantha and Bethany, and they'll get it right to you, okay?
Perfect.
And they wave and they close the door. And as soon as they close the door and you guys turn around, Tommy, you feel this big wet thing hit you right in the chest.
Yeah.
And you look down and it's just like this slush of snow. And you hear a little boy, and he goes, "Got you! You're dead now." And it's the boy, the oldest of the Morgans, and he kind of rushes up, and his two sisters are coming behind. And he
William dives down and gets a snowball and launches it at them.
I pull out my gun. No, I. Free motherfucker.
So he dodges the snowball pretty well, and he says, "You guys are talking about that guy next door, right? The one who disappeared?"
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, what's going on? What happened?
Oh, you don't know?
No, my parents won't tell me. But I'm 11. I'm practically an adult.
It's just adult stuff.
Well, what about adult? Are you guys cops?
No, we're not cops.
Do you guys have guns?
Everybody has guns.
I don't have a gun.
I've got a boomerang.
You're too old, kid. You'll shoot your eye out. Was Mr. Tucker in the mafia? I think he's in the mafia. That's what I've been telling my friends at school.
Why do you think that?
Well, he disappeared. Mafia, what they do is they put your feet in concrete slabs and they dump you in the East River. Everyone knows that.
You've been watching too much TV, kid. Wait.
Radio.
You've been watching too much radio, kid.
Oh,
Watch it.
I have not been listening to too much radio, mister. Like I said, I'm an adult. I know all these things. I read it in magazines and in the newspaper.
Do you know who this is over here? I point to Fowler.
And he says, no, I don't know who that is.
That's Dexter Fowler.
Dexter Fowler, I don't listen to that crap.
Crap. I was hoping to distract the kids and let them jump all over Fowler as we go to the car.
I'm gonna give the kid a quarter and wink at him and say, "You're a good kid. I like you."
He takes the quarter and he says, wow, mister. And I need Felix to give me a psychology roll.
I'm gonna say quietly to William and Tommy.
I've passed.
What
guys,
are you gonna say?
40.
you guys noticed that Ralph is an accountant. That was interesting.
Felix, as you're bending over to give him the quarter, he takes a quarter. You're looking past him, and you're looking at the little girl, the littlest. She seems about 4 or 5. She seems very uncomfortable. Like, she's looking at the ground, and she's kind of bundled up. She's looking at the ground.
You all right there, sweetie?
And the young one, Todd, he turns around and he says, "That's just Martha. She's a scaredy cat." The middle child, Polly, then goes, "She gets nightmares sometimes." And Todd goes, "It's because she's a baby. She's a baby."
Nightmares? What about?
And she kind of looks up at you, and she goes, "Mr. Tucker."
Why would you have nightmares about Mr. Tucker?
I don't have nightmares. And she gets even quieter, and she goes, "Sometimes at night I see Mr. Tucker and he walks outside in his backyard and he just stares at the fence." And Todd goes, "She's crazy. Don't listen to her. She's just a baby. Babies have nightmares. Babies also wet the bed." And he kind of like pushes Martha. And she just looks back at the ground, and she goes, "Sometimes he watches me from the window. He'd look up from the backyard and he'd just stare at me, and then he'd go back inside."
When was the last time you saw him?
She kind of shrugs. And Polly goes, "She's been having nightmares ever since she was a kid."
She's still a kid.
Like a baby baby.
Oh.
Well, in that case, I'm going to pull out a salted peanut bar from my pocket. I will produce a salted peanut bar.
And she, like a magician. And Martha immediately brightens up because you're no longer talking about Mr. Tucker.
This is for you.
And she reaches out and she takes it and she goes, "Thank you, mister." And she kind of runs off. She's embarrassed. And he goes, "Are you guys going to show me your guns?"
No.
I don't have a gun, kid.
We have to go.
I got knives. I like getting up close and personal.
That's cooler. All right, so you guys kind of brushed Todd off, and he's literally just like circling you guys as you get into your car, asking you, "Is he in the mafia? Have you killed anybody before? You guys are cops, right? You're asking my parents a bunch of questions. Tell me everything." And you guys just get in the car, and he kind of gets the message, and he runs off.
At that question, when he says, "Have you killed anybody before?" My face just drops, and the playfulness leaves me, and I just quietly get in the car.
All right. So once you guys close the doors,
Just as I close the door, I open my jacket and show the kid my pistol.
And he immediately just like brightens up, like, oh my God, he saw the face of God today. It was a little metal revolver. And he immediately runs off and he's like, Polly, I saw a gun. And he just runs off to see his sister. And you guys close the door and you're in the car. What now? We started a bit late. So do you guys want to go until 10:10 or do you guys want to call it at 8?
10:10 works for me.
10:10 works for everybody. That's fine.
Yeah,
right.
I can stay longer.
Are we going to head to the accountant?
Yes. Yeah. It'll take you.
As we're traveling, can William noticed Felix's response? Can they do a little psychology roll and try and see what's going on there? Because I don't know the story.
Yeah, go ahead.
01.
Okay. Felix, divulge as much as you want about your personal feelings. He's got a know one.
I maybe don't really question him on it, but I just realised that there's some backstory to something that's going on. I'm just like, are you okay, Mr. Bamboni?
Well, yeah. How are you feeling, Felix?
I'm fine. I'm not going to talk about it.
Okay.
That's fine, but just he's sussing out some of the dynamics, William, in terms of what's going on. But that's fine. We can move on.
Sit quietly and just sort of look out of the window, really.
All right.
Smoking heavily.
So, gentlemen, what do you think of this scenario? That Mr. Tucker, Mr. Timothy Tucker, an honest man, didn't like things that he saw that were going on in his office. And he figured that he could do something about it. And so he lifted the ledger that has the incriminating evidence in it and was possibly going to turn it over to the authorities, but then he realized his mistake and he ran for it.
I like it a whole lot better than having to tell his wife that their life was built on mob money.
I think you're onto something, Mr. Hawk.
Now, he may have, of course, been having an affair.
That is also true.
I think that we should talk to some of the other women in the town and their husbands and just see what their opinion was of Mr. Tucker and see if there's anything there, like one of the women, if her behavior were to display something other than innocent concern, that she and him maybe were having an affair. It could have been any one of these women.
We have that note that's from his mistress, I'm assuming.
That's the question that I was going to ask them. If any of them knew somebody named Tally.
Turn around, Dexter. Go back.
We're on the East Bridge.
You're 2 houses away. Turn around.
No, you're on the East Bridge. You're driving down. Oh, we got to turn around, make a U-turn.
I don't think we can do that, guys.
We'll ask them. Remember to ask them that the next time we see them.
All right. So you guys make it to Manhattan. You ride the elevator all the way up to the accountant's office. Yes, Tom?
I was just saying, we also need to check on the jazz club, see if there is such a jazz club in town.
Yeah.
And the doctor's is at 147th as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, I think the pills might tie into this just because he was a nervous sort of person, and now he had done something incredibly scary, and his stomach was driving him crazy. But anyways.
So you guys ride up the elevator. You open up the door. It's Fowler's accountant. So he's a skinny young man, greasy black hair. His name is Frank Bullrich, and he kind of just holds up at his arms and he says, "Fowler, Good to see you. He's like 26. He's a baby.
Well, good. Nice to meet you there, Frank. And this is what we're asking you to just check out. And I hand him the ledger. And
he takes it, and he kind of gives you a once over. And he goes, "Is this part of a case? Am I going to be in the next episode?"
Yes, you'll be in the next episode, Frank.
But you cannot discuss the contents of this ledger with anybody except us.
Of course. Client accountant privilege. We're more trustworthy than doctors. And he gives a smile and he says, "That's not true. Let's go in my office."
Yeah, let's go.
All right, so you guys go in. He sits down at his desk, and it's a very sparse office. Like there's nothing there. He is literally like pretty much brand new to this. Not brand new, but he's young. And he opens it up, and it goes. He literally opens up to the first page, and he goes, "Whoa, there's a lot going on here. We're talking payroll accounts, deposits, donations. And he looks at the very like the cover, and he goes, This is a state ledger. Am I allowed to have this?"
It's not yours.
And he nods.
We need to know if there's anything wrong going on here.
And he nods, and he just begins flipping through it. And he reads the lines and he flips. He reads the line. I go, "Wow. I can tell you there's a lot going on here." And he takes his finger. He takes a pen and he outlines entire areas. And he goes, "See this portion right here? Look at this amount. It's about $10,000. Okay, it's entered into the ledger as donation. Okay, then that donation is divided up and put into the payroll system. And it goes to a bunch of different people on the payroll. And this is clearly a government document, and donations don't work like this."
No. They're payouts. Payouts to people.
And you only got a few people on this account. It's a pretty small office. And he begins flipping through, and he goes, "The shorthand, right here, SP or CP," and he kind of circles it with his pen, and goes, "Probably an office or a department, perhaps. That's what that shorthand is. There's a lot here. We're talking tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands every day. 10,000, 20,000, 5,000, 200, 300, all listed as donations, then divided up and spread into a bunch of different accounts."
A lot of dough.
Yeah, but the shorthand here doesn't indicate who they go into. It just indicates that they're divided up, and then it gives these account numbers. But I have no idea the account numbers and who they belong to because I don't have the reference numbers or the reference books.
Right.
Sorry, did you say SP or SNP?
No, it's a CP.
Oh, CP.
It's at the top right here in the corner. So I'm going to guess that this is an apartment ledger. It's not the whole. And he goes, "This is for the city. It's not the whole city. It's probably just a department."
Wow.
City planning.
That's CP. But I'm telling you right now, you could build a small nation with the amounts that are in this book.
Will the city planning department be the ones in charge of architecture?
Yep.
Building things.
Oh, yeah. Zoning, architecture. Right. They'd have to approve renovations of historical buildings.
All right. That makes actually some sense then.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, this is looking far more like exactly what I said. That do we need anything else from him? I don't think so.
Well, I need something from you. And he points at Fowler and he says, "Payment, because this is not what I signed up for."
We're not asking you to do anything. Just tell us what it is. And
you will get extra. You'll get an extra payment on top of the monthly.
Thank you. That's all I asked for.
We would appreciate it if you never saw this.
And he says, "Saw what?" And he holds up his hands.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for your assistance.
And with that, we close on tonight's game.
I just want to say, as we're going down the stairs, I say to them, gentlemen, we have a book in our hands almost as dangerous as the Crimson Letters.
If not more.
And with that, we all right, our players included Mick Swan, Jeff Wilkins, Corey Heisted, Ken Trench, and myself with Thomas McKeon as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. If you'd like to become a patron, visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month helps us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.